An observation log of my fiancée who calls herself a villainess. Episode 9 is a devastatingly intimate excavation of the soul, a fever dream meditation on what it truly means to feel. The episode doesn't simply advance the story. It cracks open Cecil's chest and forces us to watch the fragile, newly kindled fire of his humanity flicker against the abyss of emotional nothingness. What emerges is one of the most psychologically raw and romantically profound episodes in the series so far. The episode begins in darkness, both literal and spiritual. Cecil is trapped in a vivid, light spirit-induced vision of an alternate future, one where he remained the perfect, emotionless doll prince. The horror isn't in grand tragedy but in the chilling absence. He watches himself offer hollow condolences to a grieving Marquis Nochase, his words polite, correct, and utterly devoid of warmth. The dialogue here is surgical. Cecil's past/future self speaks with the mechanical precision of someone who understands social obligation but has never tasted sorrow. The contrast with his present trembling voice, "I hate this, I don't want to go back to those days," lands like a punch to the sternum. We feel the terror of regression, the fear that the emotions he has painstakingly gathered through Bersha might be stolen away, leaving him once again a beautiful, empty vessel. Interwoven with Cecil's personal nightmare is a quietly devastating political tragedy. The kingdom faces an epidemic. Luana Leaf is the cure, but supplies are limited. King and Marquis Nochase, once close friends, stand on opposite sides of an impossible choice. The king chooses his people. The Marquis loses his wife. In that moment, the episode whispers something profound. Correctness can murder friendship. Cecil's father knows he made the right decision as a ruler, yet the guilt of failing as a friend hollows him out. This sequence gives Cecil's own emotional awakening devastating context. He is watching the exact path he was destined to walk, the path of righteous loneliness, and it terrifies him. We then slip into the future timeline proper. Here, Bersha is the arrogant, entitled villainess everyone expects her to be. She fires maids on whims, bullies those beneath her station, and clings to Cecil with possessive desperation. Cecil, in turn, views her as a tolerable accessory, as long as she doesn't cause any major issues. The brilliance of the writing lies in how it makes this version of Bersha feel both authentic to her archetype and profoundly wrong to us. Because we know the real Tia. We know the chaotic, earnest, self-proclaimed villainess who makes Cecil's heart race through sheer unpredictability. This cold, calculated version is a grotesque mirror. Enter Hironia Indiran, the soft-spoken, bird-loving, pure countryside girl who becomes Cecil's brief fascination in this nightmare timeline. Her introduction is bathed in golden light and gentle comedy, chasing her bird, napping under trees, scrambling backward in embarrassment. She is everything the storybook heroine should be, and that's exactly what makes her dangerous. The episode masterfully reveals how her innocence becomes a weapon. The public confrontation at the graduation party, where she and other victims accuse Bersha of systematic bullying, is brilliantly staged. What begins as righteous justice slowly curdles into something uglier as we sense the manipulation behind it. Cecil's love for Hironia feels less like genuine emotion and more like a doll discovering the concept of novelty. The emotional climax is shattering. When the illusion begins to fracture, Cecil looks at this version of Bersha and whispers the line that defines the entire episode, "You are not my Tia." In that moment, everything clicks. The warmth he's been desperately protecting isn't abstract. It's her. The chaotic, ridiculous, fiercely loving Bersha who dragged him into the world of feelings. The one who makes life unusual. The one who makes him alive. His rejection of the correct heroine and the correct future is not just romantic, it's existential. He chooses messiness over perfection. He chooses the unpredictable spark over the safe narrative. He chooses humanity, even if it means pain. Cecil undergoes the deepest transformation. We witness a being who was once emotionally sterile now experiencing something close to panic at the thought of returning to that state. His love for Bersha has evolved from detached curiosity to fierce emotional dependency, not in a toxic way, but in the way a man who has tasted color after living in grayscale would fight to keep it. Bersha exists in this episode as both shadow and beacon. The nightmare version terrifies us because we understand how easily she could have become that person. The real Bersha, hinted at in the framing, is the salvation Cecil refuses to surrender. Hironia and Paichan represent the seductive danger of destiny and fated love. Their tragedy is poignant. They chose manipulation over growth, and in doing so, destroyed their own chance at happiness. The episode's atmosphere is suffocating yet luminous. The light spirit's visions feel like drowning in memories that aren't yours. The use of silence around Cecil's realizations is masterful. The weight of what isn't said carries more power than any monologue. Symbolism abounds. Dolls, birds, roses, faces, transparent fading bodies. The recurring motif of warmth being stolen is particularly devastating, capturing the terror of emotional regression with visceral clarity. The pacing is impeccable, moving from intimate psychological horror to political tragedy to social comedy to public confrontation, before delivering an emotional catharsis that feels earned rather than convenient. Here are the best scenes of the whole episode so far. Cecil's whispered, "I hate this," as he feels his emotions slipping away. Pure, existential dread. The king and marquis scene, a masterclass in quiet heartbreak. The garden meeting with Hironia, where Cecil's curiosity first sparks, and we already know it's wrong. The final confrontation and dissolution of the engagement, where Nightmare Bersh's arrogance collapses into desperation. The devastatingly tender moment when Cecil affirms, "This is the world where my Bersha exists." The emotional thesis of the entire series. Episode 9 is not merely a turning point. It is a love letter to the beautiful, messy, real connections that save us from becoming the hollow versions of ourselves the world often demands. It asks the question every person who has ever begun to feel deeply must eventually face. Would you rather be correct and empty, or flawed and alive? Cecil has made his choice, and in doing so, he has never felt more human or more in love. This is anime storytelling at its most emotionally intelligent. It doesn't just entertain. It reaches into your chest, cradles something fragile, and refuses to let go. If you've ever feared losing the parts of yourself that someone special helped you discover, this episode will wreck you in the best possible way. 10 out of 10, a haunting, luminous masterpiece of psychological romance.